So, we all know Aemeath is one of the strongest DPS when paired with Lynae and Mornye. But what if you are missing one, or even both of them? Is Aemeath still worth pulling as a free-to-play player? That's exactly what today's video is about, as I'll be showing you her real free-to-play performance in all kinds of teams. So get ready for the show! Alright, so first of all, let's take a look at my free-to-play build for S0 Aemeath, using the good old reliable, the R1 Emerald of Genesis. Well, at least that was my plan for this video, but unfortunately thanks to the new weekly materials, we can't max her talent on day 1 right away, which massively melts her damage potential. That's why for this showcase, I'll be using her signature to make up the loss, which fortunately for my calculations, this setup is extremely close to the R1 standard 5-star when fully built. That means all the damage you are about to see in this video is basically the real performance of a messed up free-to-play Aemeath, so please enjoy the showcase like usual. Now as for the egg cost set, needless to say the Trailblazing Star is the best choice, with a cost 4 that only works with Aemeath as you see her name as condition. And to show you her peak free-to-play performance, I spent quite a bit of resources farming a decent set for her, which you can see here. Finally, regarding her talents, you pretty much have to upgrade them all since they are all really useful, just like Artitia. But since we can't do that right away, I'll say prioritize on her Liberation, then followed by her basic attack and resonance skill, which are basically her human and Gundam damage respectively. By the way, just to let you know, you can actually stay in one form exclusively most of the time, so technically you just need to upgrade one of them, depending on which form you prefer to play. Anyway, since I've already covered the talent loss with a signature weapon, I'm leaving everything at level 6 to keep her damage consistent across the board. And that's all for my build, so let's move on to how to play her. Yeah, Aemeath is definitely one of the most complex DPS in the game, but thankfully, there's actually a good reason for it this time around, since you're basically playing 2 characters instead of 1, which explains why her kit looks so overwhelming on paper. So like always, to save you the trouble, I'll simplify it and focus only on what you actually need to do in her rotation, which is actually fairly simple once you get used to it. So let's begin. Alright, so the very first thing you should know is that do not mindlessly switch her form like this. Yes, I know it looks extremely cool, but you're actually wasting time without accomplishing anything at all, so be careful. Instead, you should stay in one form and keep spamming basic attacks until the skill lights up. That's the cue for you to change form, which generates a star above her meter, and that's the actual goal of her rotation, as we need 4 stars to activate her ultimate nuke. By the way, here's a small but really useful trick. After switching form and generates a star, you can actually immediately switch back to mech form, which basically allows you to stay in it at all time. And since mech form is better in almost every way, this is just a free buff. That being said, regardless which form you play, generating stars this way is honestly really slow and inefficient, as you can see here. And that's where her intro and liberation comes in. By using her liberation after triggering her intro, she gets 2 stars right away, massively cutting down her rotation. So from this point onward, just spam the attacks I mentioned for the last 2 stars. And do a special heavy attack that lasts up, and finally you can unleash the final nuke, which does massive damage. So yeah, here's basically the summary of her rotation, which is actually extremely simple and won't take more than 14 seconds once you get used to her, which is the duration of most buffs. And that's basically everything about her gameplay. Or is it? Where's the rest of her kit? And what about her 2 moves? Well, no need to worry my friend, because those mechanics only matter for team building, not how you actually play her. So let's jump into her team setup right away. Alright, I'm pretty sure you have heard this before. Aemeath is unplayable without both Lynae and Mornye. And unfortunately that's actually half true, and there's nothing I can do to change it because that's just how Aemeath works. Thankfully you can still play her as normal, but her damage takes a really big hit without them. Long story short, Aemeath has 2 different modes, Tomb Launcher mode and Fusion Burst mode, which actually plays exactly the same in terms of gameplay. But when it comes to her damage, she requires teammates to apply Tomb Launcher or Fusion Burst respectively just to activate her own mechanic and passive buffs. And believe it or not, those buffs actually matters a lot. Just take this example with Team Natural mode. Simply having Lynae and Mornye on the team massively boosts her damage over 60%, even though they do nothing in this comparison at all. So yeah, unless you're whiling all the way to S3, there's honestly no way around this at all. Once full experience with Aemeath, you need both Lynae and Mornye for True Natural mode, or a Fusion Burst Chakona for Fusion Burst mode, otherwise you're losing significant damage. Well, honestly, given their past records with character design in this game, I thought this is nothing new to you by now. So finally, when it comes to the actual team building, it's really simple. If you got either Lynae and Mornye, go with True Natural mode and choose either Shorekeeper or Verina for the last slot. And if you don't, go with Fusion Burst mode to minimize the passive loss. Then bring Shorekeeper or Verina and pick any of these units as your damage buffer, which unfortunately all of them are 5 stars. So if you really don't have any of them, the most free to play friendly option is actually double healer team with Verina and Shorekeeper, which is decent but unfortunately causes 2 precious healers. Lastly, I really don't recommend Jensing at all, because even though she buffs liberation damage, her outro is just so painfully slow without S2, so you actually lose more damage doing her rotation than just keep attacking with Aemeath. That's something I experienced very thoroughly while playing Uno main DPS before Lynae was released. And that's basically everything to her team building, so let's see showcases of how strong they are. So, in terms of raw damage output, it's obviously the strongest team right now, since it's a full premium team that causes 3 brand new 5-star characters. Just to let you know, even though this boss is immune to 2 big finisher, she's still able to hit over 360,000 nuke, which is honestly the highest record among all free-to-play DPS. Besides, even with disadvantage, she actually finishes this level 4 tower in 1 minute, a chamber with 2 waves. That's really nuts for an S0 DPS without signature. So yeah, if anything, this just highlights how strong she is with her full team. On the other hand, you probably didn't see this coming, but she's actually really decent in windplay in West too, even though S0 Mornye's buff doesn't work at all. As you can see from this footage, the auto True Natural damage actually does a great job in killing C1 mobs, which wasn't possible before with just Lynae and Mornye. On top of that, Aemeath's mech form AoE is actually one of the best among all DPS, as she can easily cover the entire chamber, all while having the best damage output in this game. Though to be fair, most of the damage are packed into her nuke, which is way too overkill against enemies in this mode, so she ends up wasting quite a lot of damage. Anyway, in the end, I personally managed to get over 2,500 points with Purpose Captain Seal token, which I would say is a decent result for a DPS without signature. On the other hand, if you didn't pull Mornye, I'm honestly really tempted to say congrats, because as you see earlier, her buff just doesn't work in most situations, which really sucks. Honestly, if not for Aemeath's own passive talent, I would say Shorekeeper is way better than Mornye in every single way. That being said, in terms of actual damage output, Shorekeeper is still significantly weaker than no buff Mornye, with 13 seconds slower for the same level 4 challenge. But even so, Aemeath is still a really good DPS thanks to the ridiculous buff Lynae gives. So basically from these 2 showcases, we can conclude that as long as you have Lynae, Aemeath is going to feel nice to play, and it's totally worth pulling. Alright, now moving on to teams without Lynae, the best damage buffer aside from her is easily Lupa, who was the best in a full 3 fusion team. And fortunately Mornye is fusion too, which makes her significantly better than Shorekeeper. By the way, just to let you know, even without Lynae, Aemeath can actually apply True Natural herself, so Mornye's buff can still be activated without any problem. So in terms of damage, it's actually really close to Lynae Shorekeeper team, being just 4 seconds slower, which is nothing at all. So yeah, if you missed Lynae for any reason, it's not really a bad idea to pull Lupa right now, but personally I heavily suggest you to hold off a bit, because I'm pretty sure that the Lupa Fusion Burst Chakona is on the way, most probably like on the next version. And if you already have Lupa, then please enjoy, she's good with Aemeath and Mornye. On the flip side, if you don't have Mornye either, Lynae Shorekeeper instead actually causes your damage to drop even more, with 10 seconds slower than no buff Mornye. Still playable of course, but starting from this point onward, I'm more inclined to say Aemeath isn't worth pulling, as her performance has dropped to the average without Mornye and Lynae. Last but not least, if you got Mornye but don't have Lynae and Lupa, the best team you can go for is actually with Shorekeeper, which for some reason is actually really weak, about the same strength as the full free-to-play team Nest. Seriously, I don't believe this at all. So I tried to look for any error in my build, which I found none. So maybe it's my skill issue, so I tried it in for more times. And you know what? I got the same result multiple times. So yeah, if you got this team, please give it a try and see if you get any better results, because I totally don't believe this at all. Finally, the most free-to-play friendly double healer team. Well, I mean, it's exactly what you expect. It's a disaster. Unlike all other DPS, there's just no suitable 4-star support for Aemeath at all, and that's exactly why she's not viable for free-to-play. Honestly, she reminds me of free-to-play Kartitia, except way worse because she doesn't even have a Sanhua equivalent. So yeah, if this is the only team you can afford, unless you're going to put the Fusion Burst Chakona, it's best to skip Aemeath, to be honest. So, after going through all the common team setups, you should now have a very clear picture of what a free-to-play Aemeath actually looks like, and whether she's worth pulling for yourself. And long story short, when she has the right teammates, namely Lynae and Mornye, and an upcoming Fusion Burst applicator, she's easily one of the strongest DPS available at S0. But without those key supports, her damage drops really hard. Fortunately, unlike Johnny with Phoebe, she's still playable with other supports like Lupa, but you have to accept she's not in her best form, and could be very weak depending on your roster, as you can see in this footage here. That said, at the end of the day, pull what you really enjoy, and not the meta, which to be honest, she's a really cool character to play. And that's about everything for this video, so if you enjoyed this, please leave a like and subscribe, and share your thoughts of what you think about Aemeath. Thanks for watching, and I'll be seeing you in the next one.